welcomed tonight. The president promises to lead campaign for APC candidate Bola Tinubu's presidential bid, unveils his campaign council and action plan. Coast now clear for Sheriff Oberewori to contest Delta State governorship election in 2023 as Supreme Court affirms him as authentic candidate of the PDP in the state. 44 eminent Nigerians, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, gets National Excellence Award for outstanding service in government and economy. On business news tonight, African Development Bank launches multinational project to support young farmers in Nigeria and 2 other African countries.
And on sports news tonight, the Flamingos of Nigeria have qualified for the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup for the first time, beating USA 4-3 on penalties.
And from Abuja, residents seek refuge on higher grounds as floodwaters continue to rise in Bayelsa State. Governor Doyetiri gives assurance of more assistance for the people.
And in international news from London, Italy's far-right leader Giorgia Meloni and her coalition allies have met President Sergio Mattarella and say they are ready to form a government as quickly as possible.
As the temper of campaigns by political parties heats up, the president has pledged to be at the forefront of the effort to elect the All Progressives Congress presidential candidate Bola Tinubu as his successor in office next year. President Muhammadu Buhari made the pledge today at the unveiling of the Presidential Campaign Council and the action plan of the presidential candidate of the party. According to the president, the future of Nigeria is safer in the hands of the ruling APC. Our State House correspondent Gloria Mizuke reports.
After several brainstorming and controversies surrounding the Presidential Campaign Council,
this campaign, I want to charge every member to put in maximum efforts during the next 4.5 months of campaign to ensure we record a resounding victory in all our elections nationwide. The future of this country is safer in our hands.
Energized by the inauguration, the party's national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, vows to crush all opposition in a fresh resolve to claim victory in 2023.
Let the word go forth this day and from this banquet hall that the APC juggernaut is set to roll through all towns, cities, and village squares in our country, crushing all opposition and paving the way for its self-succession in the 2023 presidential and general elections in the Republic of Nigeria.
The presidential and vice presidential candidate underscore that they would work together, bringing their experience and best performance to bear.
We shall build a nation where sufficient jobs with decent wages and an enabling environment for small business owners create a better life for all and a future of promise for our youth. Our national economy will grow, we succeed, we be respected.
As we prepare to venture out to sell our action plan to our fellow citizens, let's carry with us the dignifying badges of our ambassadorial responsibility and expectation, and adhere to the collective principles that have kept us standing this tall and this long.
Appealing to the membership of the council and party faithful, the Director General of the Campaign Council, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State, urges everyone not to allow sectional interests prevail.
Put aside any personal or sectional interest and stay with our God, which is with the elections with a wide margin that has not been recorded before in the history of elections in Nigeria.
Now, from what can be gleaned in the newly unveiled action plan, the APC presidential candidate, if elected, hopes to totally amend the national governance architecture such that subnationals can have more resources and autonomy, and also take a review of the federal allocation system, among several other promises. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, not a few people were surprised when Governor Nyesom Wike publicly endorsed the re-election bid of his Lagos State counterpart, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who is of the APC, and so expectations were high on how his party would react to the matter. But the People's Democratic Party says it currently prioritizes reconciliation over sanctions, and the party's main focus is how to win the 2023 general elections. PDP National Publicity Secretary Mr. Debo Olugunagba told journalists in Abuja that the party has a process which will be followed to handle such situations.
This party has a process. We don't do hop, step, and jump. When you send in information like you are giving to us, of course, in the public domain, of statement being made by the governor of Rivers State, but because we are a party of law and order, of rule, we don't just sit down and talk to you and say, hey, we're going to do this. There's a process. That process will kick in. The party will go through its process. But recognizing that the ultimate goal for us is to reconcile every member of this party because of the higher calling to rescue this country. And I referenced it earlier that even in Ukraine and Russia, they're talking. So if they're talking, so why are you sure that we're not talking? We're talking and we're making progress, and we believe in our capacity to resolve these issues in the larger interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. A reconciliation is not a 100-meter dash. It's an ongoing thing. And 24 hours in politics is a lifetime, and it's a work in progress. Reconciliation is ongoing.
Staying with politics, the Labour Party has suspended its national youth leader, Mr. Anselm Iragbe, for 6 months for alleged gross misconduct and anti-party activities. But the party says he remains its candidate, and this is for the Edo North Senatorial District in the National Assembly elections next year. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the National Publicity Secretary of the party accused him of usurping the powers of the national chairman to raise funds without approval of the party's leadership. However, in a statement, Mr. Iragbe describes his suspension as illegal, explaining that it did not follow the party's constitution.
When we say, a gross misconduct, when you disobey the constitution that you subscribe to, is a gross misconduct. When they say, oh, your role is to mobilize the youth and not to usurp the function of the office of national secretary, not for you to usurp the function of the office of national chairman, you know you have caused it an infraction deliberately in the constitution. All those one will sum it up as gross misconduct, because you are supposed to conduct yourself within the ambit of our constitution, and anyone you veer away from that, that is a gross misconduct. The something was read to him. He appeared before the committee. They tabled the allegation before him. He was unable to defend himself.
To legal matters now, where the coast is now clear for the Speaker of the Delta State House of Assembly, Sheriff Wori, to contest the state governorship election in 2023, as the Supreme Court affirmed him as the candidate of the People's Democratic Party. The Apex Court upheld the decision of the Court of Appeal delivered on August the 29th, which voided and set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court of July 7th, 2022, that nullified his nomination on the ground of certificate forgery and perjury. The Supreme Court held that the case of the appellant, David Edevie, has no merit in any form.
An array of supporters from both sides of the Delta State People's Democratic Party are here at the Supreme Court for the judgment of the suit filed by Mr. David Edevie, challenging the governorship candidacy of the party for the 2023 general elections. The atmosphere in the courtroom, which is filled to its capacity, is mixed as they await the verdict from the apex court. The justices arrive and go straight into delivering the judgment. Justice Tijani Abubakar, who read the lead judgment, held that issues bordering on serious allegations of fraud cannot commence by originating summons, as mere affidavits were not enough to address the issues. He adds that the allegations of fraud by Mr. Edevie against Mr. Ovorowori required the calling of witnesses and oral testimony. The apex court held that the Federal High Court erred when it nullified Mr. Ovorowori's nomination as PDP's candidate for Delta State. While dismissing the appeal for lacking in merit, Justice Abubakar affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeal delivered on August the 29th. Outside the courtroom, it's jubilation for Mr. Ovorowori's supporters.
It is a reaffirmation of the law as you know it. The critical issue in this case is Section 29 of the Electoral Act. And what the Supreme Court has done by this decision is to bring greater certainty as to how to take the steps to initiate an action of this nature. So for we as counsel, as ministers in the Temple of Justice, we are extremely gratified. We are very delighted that no iota of doubt now exists on this point as far as our law is concerned.
This judgment finally puts to rest the question on who will fly the People's Democratic Party's flag for Delta State at the 2023 general elections.
Meanwhile, the apex court has struck out a request by a governorship aspirant in Ebonyi State, Senator Joseph Ogba, to review its final judgment of September 14, 2022, which upheld Chukwuma Ifeanyi as the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State for the 2023 elections. Now, the court, presided over by Justice Amina Oge, struck out the request following the withdrawal of a motion to that effect by counsel to Mr. Ogba, Paul Irokoro. At the day's proceedings, Mr. Irokoro, a senior advocate of Nigeria, wanted the court to review its earlier judgment, which recognized Ifeanyi as the PDP governorship candidate. However, the senior lawyer withdrew the processes filed on behalf of his client when it became apparent that the apex court would not yield to the request. Following the withdrawal, Justice Amina Oge struck out the request. Before the withdrawal, counsel to Ifeanyi, Chris Uche, had opposed the request of the factional governorship candidate on grounds that it constituted a gross abuse of the Supreme Court. In part two, after the break, delegates to the World Election Bodies Assembly in South Africa, including former INEC chairman Professor Tairo Jega, discuss how democratic recession is impacting election processes, its integrity and institutions. Do stay with us. Welcome back. If this has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. The president promises to lead campaign for APC candidate Bola Tinubu's presidential bid, unveils his campaign council and action plan. Coast now clear for Sheriff of Werewori to contest the Delta State governorship election in 2023 as Supreme Court affirms him as authentic candidate of the PDP in the state. 44 eminent Nigerians, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, get National Excellence Award for outstanding service in government and economy. And Italy's far-right leader, Giorgia Meloni, and her coalition allies meets the country's president say they are ready to form a government as quickly as possible. Let's take you outside the shores of the country, where the 5th General Assembly of the Association of World Election Bodies has come to an end in Cape Town, South Africa. Apart from selecting new leadership, the delegates spent 2 days looking at how democratic recession is impacting election processes, integrity and institutions. Speakers included South Africa's former President, Thabo Mbeki, and Nigeria's former INEC Chairman, Professor Tahiru Jega. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, reports.
South Africa's former President Thabo Mbeki addressed the delegates of the Association of World Election Bodies on the last day. From his view, the 1990s wave of democratization has not developed much further than it should have, so he challenged his audience.
I'm convinced that the EMB's meeting at this AWEB conference must formulate and communicate their collective views about the major issues which attend the challenge to ensure that the people shall govern, and therefore that the democratic recession must be defeated.
From the research outcomes of the Election Integrity Project, Professor Toby James of the University of East Anglia tried to illustrate if the world is grappling with electoral integrity recession alongside democratic recession.
According to this data, we don't see an overall decline over this 10-year period. Whereas we're seeing an overall decline in the quality of democracy, according to the varieties of democracy, here we're not seeing a decline necessarily in terms of the quality of elections. A levelling off, no improvements, but overall things are as they were.
There was no Nigerian delegation, although Nigeria is a member of the body. But speaking on the impact of democratic recession on election management bodies, EMBs, former INEC Chairman Professor Tahiru Jega blamed weaponization of identity, strongman politics and exclusion in governance as some of the factors contributing to democratic recession globally. Integrity, he says, is non-negotiable for all parties.
While many EMBs have made progress in enhancing electoral integrity in their countries, the era of democratic recession has substantially eroded their achievements. Indeed, African EMBs seem helpless as reckless incumbent leaders, even political parties and candidates, push their countries towards reversal to authoritarian rather than to desirable democratic consolidation.
Professor Jega and many of the speakers wish interference by politicians, obstruction of legal reforms, whittling of autonomy and underfunding of EMBs will be a thing of the past, while integrity, collaborations across countries and with other stakeholders like civil society organizations can be strengthened for the people's sake.
The openness to work with all election stakeholders. Some countries, they are not friendly with the civil society or the media. They don't want, they think like it's challenging for their ongoing work. It's not like that. The genuine democratic election can happen with all the election stakeholders to get together and also the incorporate and also the welcome.
South Africa as a host now assumes the chairmanship of the 109-nation organization with 160 member institutions, till its next meeting in 2 years' time, to be hosted by Colombia. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
And we're back home and off to Abuja, where Terry Kumi is standing by with more. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Millicent. We go once more to the presidency, where the president has said today that nepotism, cronyism, political patronage, lack of transparency and accountability are some of the issues that have exacerbated corruption in the public service. President Muhammadu Buhari highlighted this during the presentation of Excellence Awards to persons and organizations who have distinguished themselves in government and the economy. 44 eminent Nigerians received the award, including former President Goodluck Jonathan, state governors, service chiefs, and ministers.
week after presenting the 2022 National Honors Award, President Muhammadu Buhari steps into the State House Banquet Hall to present the maiden edition of the Public Service Excellence Award. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is collaborating with a private organization to reward innovation, leadership, and exceptional achievements in public service.
I would like to encourage all the recipients of this Excellence Award not to relent in their efforts towards contributing to the growth and development of the public service and the society at large, because growth and development should continually be our aspiration.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is honored with Peace Building Award, leads the list of 44 prominent recipients, including federal lawmakers, 16 state governors, 5 ministers, service chiefs, among others, across various categories.
Express our appreciation.
Beyond this list, former President Jonathan makes a case for recognition of teachers, medical personnel, and improved local government administration.
We have 36 states, and out of 36 states, from the list, 16 governors are recognized this morning. Then I myself, out of the 774 local government chairmen, not even one is here with us. Mr. Senate President and Mr. Speaker, that shows that National Assembly has some work to do. Probably we need to review and look at the structure and functions of the local government.
For President Buhari, there are certain factors that have inhibited some Nigerians from receiving awards like this one.
Issues in corruption continue to affect the civil services in many countries around the world. Several reasons of these issues still exist because of the deeply rooted problems like nepotism, cronyism, political patronage, as well as lack of transparency and accountability. These vices distract them from delivering on their mandates and aspirations.
According to the organizers of the award, the recipients must be a living public official or private citizen excelling consistently in each sphere of influence and going beyond the mandate of the office to make the nation a better place.
When the news at 10 returns, African Development Bank launches multinational project to support young farmers in Nigeria and 2 other African countries. That's on Business News. To join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The flood in Bayelsa State is still on the rise, and more people are abandoning their homes and seeking refuge on higher grounds. 7 of the 8 local governments in the state have ravaged by the massive body of water. Even the country home of former President Goodluck Jonathan has not been spared. Following this, Governor Doyediri has embarked on another round of visits to some of the affected communities to assess the impact of the flood.
The streets of Otoke, a town in Bayelsa State in south-south Nigeria, are like many rivers as the flooding continues unabated. Many of the locals here are farmers and fishermen who may have gotten more water than they bargained for this year. Many homes continue to be taken over by floodwaters. Otoke is also the country home of the former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, and his property is not spared. Once again, Governor Doyediri is out and about and is shocked by what he sees.
Bayelsa is under attack. We are here to again continue to assess the level of destruction that the ravaging flood is causing in our state and in all of our communities.
Frustrated residents showed their displeasure about their situation with many protests.
My children, where we dey now and they inside water. We don't now want to survive on one bag of pure water and 800 now they buy.
Governor Diri reassures them that all will be well soon.
I bring you hope. I have come to also let you know that you are not left alone in this time and in these very trying times that we are all going through in Bayelsa State.
Sacked from their homes, some take refuge in whatever dry space they can find, anywhere higher than the waters below.
All our houses covered by water, nowhere to be stayed. It is though the commissioner that we should come here and rest. Even this my co-friend, he have 2 houses before all us fell down.
Others make do with this makeshift holding camp, also surrounded by water. Governor Diri makes a quick stop here.
Going around to the citizens of Bayelsa and to all the non-natives who are residents in Bayelsa.
He then makes a final boat ride to the residence of the mother of the former president, Madam Eunice Jonathan, to assure her that the state government will continue to support flood victims.
The video playing on your screen is the aftermath of the attack by gunmen on the convoy of Apostle Johnson Suleiman of Omega Fire Ministry today along the Benin-Auchi Road in Edo State. An eyewitness said the gunmen reportedly opened fire on his convoy, killing his police orderlies and other yet-to-be-identified persons. Confirming the incident, the Edo State Police Command spokesperson Chidi Nwabuzo said the attack left 6 persons dead and a 7th missing. Meanwhile, in Niger State, armed men suspected to be bandits have attacked Mejaki village in Burning Maza, Tashibu ward of Lapai local government area, abducted 13 persons and shot 1 in the process. The incident occurred in the early hours of today when the villagers were woken up by gunshots. A community source told Channels Television that the atmosphere in the community is tense following the attack and calls for urgent security in the area. Well, that's all from the nation's capital. Back to you, Millicent, and thank God it's Friday.
You're quite right. Thanks, Terry. And here we move to education, where Legal Icon Chief Afe Babalola has expressed concern that Nigeria is yet to fulfill the globally acceptable budget provision for education. He called on the federal government to change the narrative. Chief Babalola was speaking during the 10th convocation of the Afe Babalola University and the 13th Founders Day of the institution, where 3 eminent Nigerians bagged honorary doctorate awards and an emeritus professor was decorated.
A procession of school management and top academics arrived for the 10th convocation ceremony of the Afe Babalola University, Abuad. The founder of the institution, Chief Afe Babalola, highlights the award-winning feats of the institution as he calls on the federal government to scale up funding of the education sector.
The budget which we are going to run for the next 1 year, government gave only 5.6% instead of 26% for education. I'm appealing through the high-placed people here for government to please increase the funding of public universities.
For these 1,673 graduates, a journey to higher grounds has begun as they are admitted into bachelor's and postgraduate degrees.
When I look back at
the young girl that stepped into the citadel of learning in 2018. I realized that she's totally different from the girl that she is now. Thank you for the sacrifices you made for us every step of the way. It is because of you that we are here today and we are being celebrated.
The outstanding ones also get special recognitions.
And in learning, whose names appear on this.
3 notable Nigerians also bag honorary doctorate degrees at this ceremony. The Shehu of Borno, Dr. Abubakar El Kanemi, former governor of Ekiti State, Segun Oni, and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mike Ozekome.
On my own humble part, let me sow a seed to show that I have become a part and parcel of this university. You can no longer sweep me away from now onwards. I'm one of you. I'm going to endow a scholarship fund, and you graduates of today, may God bless you and make you useful to yourself, your families, and the entire society.
Hopes are high that these new graduates churned out by Abuad will join like minds in the mission of building a greater Nigeria and a better world.
Congratulations to the awardees. And Channels Television has again added another feather to its cap as it bagged the Media Outfit of the Year award at the Maiden Cybersecurity Merit Awards 2022. The ceremony, which held at the Radisson Blu Ikeja, Lagos, recognized outstanding individuals, teams, organizations, institutions and states that demonstrate excellence, innovation and leadership within the cybersecurity industry. The Nigeria Communications Commission and Federal University of Technology, MENA, were also recognized as MDA and University of the Year, among other winners. Time now for business news. Here's Anne Wilder.
Thank you, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The African Development Bank, AFDB, has launched a $937 million multinational project to help support young farmers in Nigeria, Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. To implement the project, the AFDB group says that it is partnering with the Africa Project Development Center in Nigeria, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture in the DRC, and the African Agribusiness Incubation Network in Uganda. Olam Agri Nigeria has launched the Seeds for the Future Foundation, an education grant which will provide financial support to about 60 million naira to 50 indigent Nigerians. The initiative will also focus on enhancing the capacity of local farmers, women empowerment, and the promotion of health and nutrition across the country.
The Vice President, Professor Yemio Shinbajo, and the top management of Olam Agri make their way into the hall.
Thank you. You may be seated.
And as guests settle in, the country head of Olam Agri Nigeria, Mr. Ashish Pandey, enumerates the objectives of the Seeds for the Future Foundation, an education grant to be launched.
The foundation basically works on 4 different areas or 4 different levers. It talks about working with farmers and farming association, organization. It talks about education and skill development. It talks about women empowerment. And finally, being a food company, it also talks about promoting health and nutrition for the people and for the population.
The initiative is one the federal government is pleased with, as explained by the Vice President before launching the program.
The planting of these seeds show your strong belief in the future of our country and its innovative and hardworking people, and how it is that the story of our country will ultimately yield fruits of prosperity, peace and decent livelihoods for all. And really, considering that Olam started off in Nigeria a few short years ago, and has now grown to 60 different countries. I think it's evident that Nigerian soil is very fertile indeed, and also that the seeds that are planted here are very prolific. They're already 60 different countries. There you go.
The seeds for the Future Foundation and education grants the management of Olam Agri Nigeria says will be awarded to the best qualified applicants based on merit.
This is about students who will join college, right? So people who are from arts, who are from engineering, who want to go in engineering, who want to go into medical, who want to go in agriculture studies, it's open for all. Of course, the criteria will be decided by Deloitte. You know, we're working with them closely. We will work a mechanism where we will actually have the right kind of selection process so that we are able to be seen as fair as possible.
The initiative is expected to commence in no distant time after the launch.
We head to the equities market now, where Laddie Williams has the details for us.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. Well, final trading day of the week, and it's a sustained rebound from yesterday. And the activity chart, not so bad. Look at the all-share index there, 0.15% up, 44,396. This actually held this week. Market cap, 24.18 trillion. Let's look at what's happening with the activity chart there. We see it's all red. Volume, 95 million units. We normally have above 100 million there. Value, 1.88 billion there. Deals 2,888. We used to have about 4,000 deals normally, so we're seeing less buying pressure than what we had yesterday. Let's move over to the gainers counter now. We see Academy Press there topping that counter, closing at 1.46 naira. Sterling Bank Financial Services sector, that closed up 3.95%, and we see Chams up 3.85%. To the losers counter now, we see NEM Insurance there closing down 9.98% at 4 naira 42 kobo. Well, yesterday and today's gains are not enough to give us a positive trading week. Hopefully, the all-share index holds the 44K level next week. And that's the stock market report. I'm Laddie Williams. It's back to you.
Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Coming up next, Italy's far-right leader, Giorgia Meloni, and her coalition allies meet the country's president, say they are ready to form a government as quickly as possible. Just stay with us. And now to some international news. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Italy's far-right leader Giorgia Meloni and her coalition allies have met President Sergio Mattarella and say they are ready to form a government as quickly as possible. She told President Mattarella that she was ready to become Prime Minister and could swiftly form a new government despite tumult within her right-wing coalition. It's after ex-Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi made pro-Putin remarks. Ms. Meloni has sought to assure Italy's Western allies that nothing will change. The Brothers of Italy leader could be sworn in as early as this weekend as the country's first female Prime Minister and first far-right leader since World War II. She said her coalition of right-wing and far-right-wing parties was unanimous that she should lead Italy. Ukraine's president has called on the West to warn Russia not to blow up a huge dam that would flood a swathe of southern Ukraine as his forces prepare to push Moscow's troops from Kherson. President Zelensky said in a televised address that Russian forces had planted explosives inside the huge Nova Kakhovka dam, which holds back an enormous reservoir that dominates much of southern Ukraine, and were planning to blow it up to cover their retreat. The dam is under Russian occupation, but Ukrainian forces are closing in. If the Kakhovka dam were destroyed, Mr. Zelensky warned it could devastate the water supply so much to much of the south and leave Europe's biggest nuclear power plant at Zaporizhia without cooling water. Pakistan's Election Commission has disqualified ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan from holding public office in a case the former cricketer has previously described as politically motivated. Mr. Khan had been accused of not sharing details of presents from foreign dignitaries and proceeds from their alleged sale. The gifts included Rolex watches, a ring and a pair of cufflinks. His lawyers say they will challenge the Commission's verdict in the High Court. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, says Boris Johnson is unfit to rule as Prime Minister.
I want to thank my right honourable friend.
It's after Liz Truss resigned yesterday and rumours have been swirling that the former Prime Minister may make a comeback.
Colleagues, I want to thank my right honourable friend opposite.
Mr Johnson has not yet ruled himself out, months after being forced out after a Tory revolt.
Well, I remind myself that only 3 months ago, Boris Johnson left office because most of those who were serving him on his front bench had declared that he was unfit for office. So to go from the kamikaze budget under Liz Truss back to a man that his own party has declared is unfit for office is the most powerful argument you could possibly have for a general election, so that we can put the alternative case to the country, which is stability, growth, an economy that works for everyone, rather than this chaos. We have set out that we want a fairer, greener Britain. We've set out that what that means is jobs, good jobs, secure jobs across all parts of the United Kingdom, with the infrastructure to back that up. This is a plan that actually recognises that our economy needs to work for working people.
Traders in Ghana's capital, Accra, who've been striking over high business costs and economic hardship, have decided to put their industrial action on hold. Ongoing talks aimed at resolving the dispute are being held by the government and the president of the Traditional Council. Members of the Ghanaian Union of Traders Association say the authorities have promised to address their concerns. Footage released by NATO shows fighter jets from Italy, Poland and the United States flying in the skies over NATO's eastern flank as part of NATO's air shielding mission. The lineup of aircraft, including Italian Eurofighters, Polish F-16s and Polish MiG-29s, as well as United States F-22s. The planned one-day series of aerial manoeuvres were conducted from Lask Air Base in Poland. NATO's air shielding mission is an increased air and missile defence posture along the alliance's eastern flank, implemented in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the US chess grandmaster Hans Niemann is suing rival Magnus Carlsen for at least $100 million after the Norwegian world champion accused him of cheating.
I think that this game is a message.
In an ongoing scandal that has rocked the chess world, Niemann is also suing website chess.com, which published a report saying he had probably cheated in more than 100 online games. Niemann says the defendants colluded to destroy his reputation and livelihood. Lawyers for chess.com say there is no merit in Niemann's allegations. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Nigeria's Flamingos have qualified for the semi-finals of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup for the first time after beating USA 4-3 on penalties in a pulsating quarter-final in Mumbai earlier today. The Flamingos got the opening goal in the 27th minute from the penalty spot, but the Americans pulled one back 13 minutes later to level the scoreline at 1-1. And that's sports news. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to Millicent.
Thank you, Victor. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today promised to lead the campaign for APC candidate Bola Tinubu's presidential bid. He gave that assurance at the unveiling of Tinubu's campaign council and action plan ahead of the 2023 election. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.